Hey, everybody, it's your host, Felipe, and you're listening to the Total Basis Podcast. I'm joined, as always, by Sean Flannery. Sean, how you doing this morning?
I am awesome. This time tomorrow, I will be getting ready to go to my first baseball game in like 3 years, 2.5 years. So this is super exciting.
Yeah, who are you going to go see again?
We're going up to Atlanta. We're going to see the Mets and Braves for like the 20th time in my life, because that's the only time I really get to see the Mets is when they play Atlanta. And the one time most recently that I went to New York, who were they playing? The Braves. And I had just seen them a month prior in Atlanta playing and I'm like, come on, like they couldn't have been playing like the Phillies or something. Like that would have been fun, a fun rivalry. But no, it's Atlanta for like the 20th time. Hey, but it's live baseball, and I'm thankful for it.
I mean, we could get started talking about that. I mean, everybody asked for the unbalanced schedule so they could see more of their rivals all year long, and these are the results. Less variety, and now fans are bitching that, well, why are we seeing the same team like 20 times a year? Like, well, you guys asked for it. No, because this happened years ago when there was this one pennant chase, right? Late in the season between the Yankees and the Red Sox, and I think the Yankees and Red Sox games were done by like July or August, and people were pissed off. Oh, why aren't we seeing any Yankees and Red Sox in the middle of a pennant? Like, what is wrong with Major League Baseball? Like, how come there's no Red Sox Yankee games in September? And they heard the complaints, even though the usual complaints are that there's too many Yankee Red Sox games on national television. But this year, it's like, why aren't we seeing more Yankees Red Sox games? So like, okay, we'll give you what you guys want. We're going to give you 18, 20 games of Yankees Red Sox. And now people are bitching that there's too many.
Well, the Mets have already played the Phillies 9 times. They've only played like 36 games. So a quarter of their schedule has been against the Phillies, and they don't play each other again until, if I can read a schedule right, the end of June. And then they don't see them until beginning of August. I mean, it's like they're finally about to play the Braves for the first time. The Mets haven't played the Braves yet. They've played Philly 9 times, and I think they had the one series versus Washington, which the first one at the beginning of the year got canceled because of COVID. But so it's just been such a weird start for them. So weird.
Well, my point is, I mean, it's the unbalanced schedule. That's what it looks like. That's what they are. You can't, it's like, that's my thing is like, you can't complain for something you guys wanted. And now that you're wanting it, now that I'm hearing talks like maybe they should change the schedule around. And, my thing is like, why do we need to see these guys play 18, 20 times? They should just do what they do in Europe, do a home and home series, 5 games each, and call it a day. 5 games against every team a year. And then if you really want to make these games matter, meet in the playoffs. And that way there's no, that guy plays that team plays in the AL Central, so they have a soft schedule. Or they play in the AL East, so that's a tough schedule, so that's why they No, you play everybody 5 games a year, and that's it. It's a uniformed, everybody, knows what they're made out of. There's no question about strength of schedule or strength of division. And everything gets, what do you call it? The results are in the playoffs anyway. That's all that matters anyway, not these 18 games that they play. And everybody goes home happy, I think. But that's what I would do.
Speaking of schedules, and we are looking at our updated, projections today. How are our projections doing so far for the standings? Did you see that ESPN's most recent deal with MLB for the playoff coverage and coverage throughout the year, hidden within it was a tiny little nugget about the playoffs that they would broadcast basically all of the wild card games, which in the contract or whatever is set to be 3 games. Maybe not this year because of the CBA, but it was something that they did last year because of COVID. And that seems like something that the owners and MLB are really going to push for at the bargaining table, is to get rid of the do or die wild card, which I think's a win. I always hated that idea that you play 162 games and next thing you know, you have 1 game. And I thought that was dumb.
I'm pretty ambivalent towards it. So what are they going to do? Are they going to add like another team to the playoffs so they can do away with that?
They will probably, like I think they'll add a team or 2. I don't think it's going to be 16 teams make the playoffs like it was last year, but I do think that initial 3-game series that they did last year, I think a lot of people like that. And not only do you get, not just 1 game, but you're talking about the top guys of each team's rotation. So you're getting like these grade A matchups as long as the team's orchestrated in such a way down the stretch, which is never guaranteed.
Nope.
But it would be awesome to see guys, like DeGrom's matchup against Bauer, Cole matchup against Sale if he's comes back healthy. Like, that's the best part about playoff baseball. And you would get it for 3 games, or at least 2.
Well, I'm all for anything that makes the game better, makes for more exciting baseball. I mean, I thought last year was pretty dope in terms of that 3-game series. What I didn't like was it had to be done at 3 games at the higher seeds home ballpark, which to me that's a huge disadvantage. But I would love to see those play in neutral sites, regionally. I know that's a lot to ask for, but because if you can't have the back and forth, because that's going to be the complaint was, well, you can't have the back and forth because that's a disadvantage to all the players, and you need that just takes another extra day to
travel,
and if you're only going to travel for 1 game across the country, that's ridiculous.
No.
So I would like to see those on a neutral site. I thought there was talk that that's what was going to happen because of COVID that was going to be in a neutral site, but it's not going to happen. But aside from that, I agree with you. I mean, who doesn't want to see those if it works out well, right? If anything, Sean, all we get to see is more Liam Hendricks throw 3 innings and saving the A's season. Maybe we'll see Jake Diekman throw 3 innings and shut down the White Sox like he did last year.
I think he just had a blown save.
Oh, okay.
Well, last night.
You know what? Get those out of the way now, because come playoff time, he's going to throw those 3 innings and he's going to no, he's not going to do anything. But yeah, I'm just kind of I'm off screen here, kind of finishing up the spreadsheet, kind of buying some time.
Oh, okay. Of course. That's always good.
But what we don't do here enough, Sean, is what's going on in the baseball life group. That is our baseball group. That is the group that we're live in every Sunday morning. We chime in, and I feel like we don't talk enough about this group, the best baseball group in all of Facebook. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of topics that were brought up in the last 24 hours.
Of course.
Okay. Well, our guy from Dong City, Vince, is asking, remember if you ever think you had too much depth in spring training? Well, today the Yankees outfield is Miguel Andujar, Ryan Lamar, and Clint Frazier.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's not good.
I thought what Vince had to say on it was at least they have Wandy. I thought that was hilarious because, of course, they go and they trade Talkman, who wasn't really getting any playing time. Yeah. Still had used his option this year. So, I mean, I don't know. It's not like they couldn't option him or anything like that. So I think that's what you get when you trade a piece that, I mean, Clint Frazier's been struggling. Stanton and Judge have both missed a little bit of time, both hitting well, but injury is always a concern. And you trade Talkman, and now you're forced to bring up a 32-year-old Ryan Lamar who hasn't played in the majors in like 2 or 3 years. It felt like a very odd decision that is 100% backfiring now.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I thought the trade was okay. I mean, but the Yankees usually have a lot of depth, but they're like the Mets in terms of injuries. Like, I think you guys lose a lot of it seems like you guys lose a lot of your pitchers. Well, the Yankees lose a lot of their everyday players. It seems like, at least that's the perception. But no, if you're telling me that your season's going to depend on Mike Talkman, then your season's was screwed to begin with. But I mean, there they are.
In what was his breakout year? Was it 2018 when they lost everyone and he came out of nowhere and had like a 550 slugging, 800 plus OPS? I mean, it was him, and I think it was 19, so it would have been him or Shella, all the guys that kind of saved the season due to all those injuries. And then you trade him for a relief pitcher that's middling at best.
Yeah,
I don't know. Seems like you can find relievers like Wendy Peralta on the waiver wire without making a trade. They're getting released every other day. You can pick somebody up. Talkman outfielders are a little bit harder to find, in my opinion.
I mean, what was the appeal to Wandy Peralta though? That I don't understand. I don't know. Like I said, it's you're trading a decent 4th or 5th outfielder, and you're getting a guy who has not crossed my mind, or we haven't even talked about him on this show, and we talk about everybody on this show. Like, what was the appeal to Wandy Peralta? Can you there must be something that they saw that they liked about Peralta.
I would think it would have to do with, being left-handed, but they already had two other lefties that have had success. I know Justin Wilson has struggled. He's missed a good amount of time, but he's back there in that bullpen. Of course, Aroldis Chapman, and you don't want to use him in a lefty on lefty matchup in like the seventh inning because his name's Chapman and he closes. And then like the really random guy that's come up for them this year, 34-year-old Lucas Luetge, left-hander, doesn't throw hard, and he's done well. So I don't know why they felt they needed Wandy Peralta and that Mike Tauchman was the guy they had to give up to get it. I mean, because in their outfield, like in the minors, there's not much there. Florial just got promoted to AAA, but I think we know what he is. I think he's Mike Tauchman, except he might be a worse defender, and the hit tool's even shakier than Tauchman's. So it's like, what were you guys doing?
I know our guy, James, who appeared with me on the basketball podcast a week or two ago, and he's been pretty high on Florio, and he thinks that, I don't know, the way he's mentioned
they've been high on Florio for like 7 years.
Was he one of those high school kids?
International, I believe.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
and okay. Yeah, because he was in A ball or lower for 5 seasons.
Okay.
Until this year, and then he started off at AA, and they just bumped him up to AAA after he hit like 4 home runs in 5 games or something like that in AA.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not gonna panic about the Yankees because they're still in first place and they still have like the most.
Are they? Is it a tie? They're 2 games out from the Red Sox right now in the American League East. They are 2 games out. Red Sox still have that lead.
I am so sorry. I'm always used to seeing the Yankees at the top, but yeah, you're right. They're 2 games behind the Red Sox.
That entire division's tough. I mean, the Mets have gotten their butts handed to them by the Rays back-to-back days.
I just talked about it. Like, yeah, that if you do the Felipe schedule, you don't have to worry about whose division is tougher than the other. No, everybody's playing 5 games a year. So, and you know what that is, Sean? You do 5 games a year times 29 teams. That's 145 games. And you know what? We appeal to the old people who want things to be the same all the time. They used to play 145 games way back in 19 dickety whatever that year was. This is it. 145 games, and then you just the playoffs are the only thing that matter to these people anyway. So you lose what?
Unless you're the Twins, and then all of their excitement comes in the regular season.
Well, not this year, but no, but yeah, you balance less games by just pumping in more playoff games. That's what you want anyway, right? That's where all the big money is. That's where all the games that matter, because none of the regular season don't matter for shit except to line your pockets, But anyway, let's see here. We have another one for you. There was another interesting question that I had for you, Sean. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say, yeah, Vince can complain about the Yankees outfield, but as a White Sox fan, I have to counter with, at least you don't have 3 slap happy hitters in the outfield. It's working, but I don't like it. You can have, let's see, Lurie Garcia, Billy Hamilton, Adam Eaton, Danny Mendick. Is that what you want?
Oh, Danny Mendick. What you want? I don't want Danny Mendick anywhere near my team.
and that's the outfield configurations if Jose Abreu misses any significant time after he ran into Hunter Dozier, which
I saw that. That was brutal.
I still don't understand how that happens. It's just a foul ball, man. Come on. Why are you running it out? We try hard here.
He's got to hustle.
You almost killed the guy. Well, congratulations. You played yourself.
This is Tony La Russa's team we're talking about. If he doesn't run hard to first, he's probably not going to play for 2 series.
No. Okay. So
that was like your mean Mercedes arrived late. They said he missed like an early meeting or something like that, and he was in the lineup. La Russa had put him in the lineup, and then La Russa kind of an hour or 2 before the game started, after he submitted the lineup, said, he was late. I'm going to take him out of the starting lineup. He's your best hitter. Like, what?
It sounds like he must have forgotten. I could have sworn there was a story about Tony La Russa like having early on-stage dementia, but of course I brought it up, and then all of a sudden I couldn't find it anymore. So now it just looks like I'm slandering the guy. But no, I could have sworn that there was a story about him struggling with his mind just going, by the wayside, because of age. It's just a natural thing, right? Not I guess that may not have been dementia, but like I said, now I can't, now that I was looking for it, I can't find it. And it would just have to say that, well, Tony is just like, what was it? 10, 15 years removed from the game. And this is the results. But no, this is the play where Hunter Dozier pops up a foul ball. And for some ungodly reason, decides to run it out. Jose Abreu and whoever the catcher is, was it, what's his face? Oh my God, who's the catcher for the White Sox for my own team? I can't remember.
Yasmani Grandal, Zach Collins.
Yasmani Grandal, probably. I think it was Grandal. And Grandal is looking for it in the sun. Jose Abreu is looking for it in the sun. And Hunter Dozier decides that he's just going to run it out and see what happens. And boom, runs right into Jose Abreu, who's looking up, trying to figure out where that ball is. And they both leave the game with serious injuries. So, all right. So that's enough stalling. Wait, no, I have one more for you. Let's see. I wanted to ask you another question here in the Baseball Life Roulette. Forget it. Let's just get going. All right, so I'm going to share my screen in a bit, and we're going to do our preview, or not a preview. Yeah, these are our predictions, right?
Well, they're not really previewed because we've already shown them.
Yeah, you're right. Hold on, there was something. Okay. So here's what's going to happen. These are the predictions we made back in March 28th. Yeah, I have the title as the March 28th, 2021 prediction show. This is how we had it, right? And I deleted my name. Sorry about that. So these are Felipe's.
I mean, it's whatever. It could be whoever.
No, it could be a consensus, right? No, but I had the Yankees in first. Sean had the Rays in first, and like you mentioned, the Red Sox are up on the Yankees 2 games. We both had the Red Sox in fourth place, although I remember talking about them saying, their lineup's pretty good. I wish they had showed some signs of pitching, and they'd be an interesting team if they did. And it turns out they did have the pitching.
Yeah. And the pitching's been solid. It's starting to come back to earth a little bit. The offense has kind of hit a sputter, which I wouldn't even call it a sputter. I think it's just less than what it was doing at the beginning of the year, which was, the first 4 or 5 guys in that lineup are all batting over 300 and slugging like crazy. I still worry about the entire depth of the lineup because there's some guys that just aren't hitting. Bobby Dahlbeck not hitting. They brought up Michael Chavis. He's had a little bit of success. Franchi Cordero, who I had very high hopes for this year, not hitting. The outfield as a whole, aside from Alex Verdugo, left field and right field, completely not figured out. First base, not figured out. Second base, really not figured out. It's just shortstop, third base, center field, catcher, and DH are just on fire. I think they might get a shot in the arm here soon. Top prospect, Jaron Duran. I know Melvin, who's with us in the comment section, posted a video that he, was one of the best players in the Caribbean League this year. And he just hit his 4th home run in the first 10 games in the minor leagues. So he's got legit 70 grade speed, and he's starting to hit for more power, just like he did in the Caribbean's Winter League. So he's a guy already in AAA mashing, and the Red Sox have 2 faulty outfielders that they need to replace, one of which I think they have in-house in Jaron Duran.
Yeah, we talked about Jaron Duran on the podcast about a week last month, I believe, talking about at the end of the month, right? Because I wanted to do at the end of the month we should talk about prospects, and that's what we did. So we did that, and his name did show up, a scrappy speed guy for the Red Sox. So we'll see. But he's on the older side in terms of prospects, I believe, right? Was he 25 years old or something?
Yeah, I think he's a little younger than that. I'm not 100% sure.
All right. Well, I'll look that up. But yeah, that's the standings right now. To our surprise, Orioles are in dead last because they're the Orioles as always. But we agree that they.
Hey, at least they threw a no hitter this year.
They what?
They threw a no hitter.
Yeah, John Means is turning out to be the starting pitcher everybody hoped he would be. But like you mentioned, it's a tough division. Look at these teams. All of these teams are over 500.
You with me? Or did I just lose you? Uh-oh. Sounds like we might have lost Felipe, guys. We will give it a second just to catch up.
It looks like we lost Sean.
No, I'm here. I thought I lost you.
No, yeah, usually it is me, but I saw myself. I'm still moving on the screen here,
Okay, we are.
and
I
then you
think we are
disappear.
good. It
All
says
right,
my internet's kind of not good right now. I don't know why that is, but we're gonna power through.
all right, we're gonna go through this. All right, we got too much stuff to show you. Wait, and you're still hosting. You're still recording.
Yes,
All
everything's
right.
still up.
All right. Yeah, that's happened before. Anyway, Jaren Durant's 24 years old, which I don't know. In my world, that's a little bit too old to be considered a prospect.
Well, these guys did lose a year of development.
I don't care.
We're gonna have to remember that.
Time is constant and it never ends. It never stops. All right. You know, I don't want to hear excuses. You're older. You should have been younger.
Okay? You should have been younger.
No, I'm just joking. Let's see. How are you feeling about the Yankees being your wildcard team? You still feel good about that?
Yeah, I still think that they simply have too much talent. Now, unless they just get destroyed by injuries even more than they kind of already have, I just worry about the pitching down the stretch. That was my main concern with them going into the year, and that's why I didn't have them winning the division, because I didn't think they had the pitching. And of course, they lead all of baseball in pitching WAR, mainly on the back of Garrett Cole, but I'd like to see how they handle it down the stretch. They have faced, like in the month of April, they faced a lot of pretty poor offensive teams. Cleveland, Baltimore, two of the bottom dregs in the league. I'd like to see, once it gets to summer and the balls start carrying, and then you have guys like Kluber and Tyone are hitting that 80 innings pitched mark, to see how they react, because they just haven't thrown that much in years. And if they lose either one of those guys, I worry about the depth. Of course, they might get Severino back soon, but it's a toss up. You don't know.
Oh boy. Well, it shouldn't have been that way. For some reason, it is. It's still kind of weird to see. Blue Jays. I always felt like if they just have enough respectable pitching, just mid-tier pitching, that they can get away with all types of stuff. And they are, because their lineup's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, Vlad is having the year that we've always expected of him. OPS well over 1,000. He's lifting the ball much more consistently. They have gotten some slow starts from guys that we really liked last year, or at least I did. Teoscar Hernandez, I knew was going to take a step back. He's starting to round into form. The one that's really disappointing to me is Gurriel Jr. and Rowdy Tellez. But like you said, it all comes down to their pitching. Robbie Ray has been great for them. Steven Matz has come back to earth. Anthony Case made a start for them yesterday against Philadelphia. That makes their rotation 4 lefties, and the lone righty is Ross Stripling, which I feel like is interesting to say the least. I think no other team has more lefties in their rotation, but
all right, let's move on to the American League Central. Our guy Matt Bushnell is already on with us on the air, and I had the Twins in first. I just thought that, once they got Nelson Cruz back, I thought, well, that's it for them. That they're set. They're bringing everybody back from last year. Pitching seems to be strong, and they have guys waiting in the minors ready to help out at any point. And it looks like they're going to need a lot more help than just whatever they're getting in the minors. They are in dead last, which I thought they would at least, at worst, be a third place team. And I never would have thought I would see the Minnesota Twins in 2021 be in dead last. Were there any signs that we might have missed about the Twins? Because you have them as your second wild card over there. Did we miss anything about the Twins this offseason that would have predicted this outcome so far?
Not necessarily. I feel like this is kind of one of those Oakland A years where the Oakland will do well for 2 or 3 years, and then out of nowhere, returning most of the same personnel, they end up sucking. And we'll see if they're like Oakland and they trade off some pieces, because they have the pieces to do that. But injuries, Byron Buxton's been their best player. He goes down. They call up Alex Kirilloff to replace in the outfield. He goes down. I believe I just saw a third person who recently got hurt for them. I can't remember who it was. But, I mean, it's like you said, outside of Kirilloff and Larnach and another Duran, the starting pitcher, they don't have much coming up in the minors. And that depth is really just – it was probably their biggest weakness, and that finds a way of happening to you.
Yeah, because it looked like their starting pitching might have been good enough to get them by while they waited for Duran and the other kid too, the guy with the long name, Volzovich or something like that.
Oh,
Ba-
Basilovich.
Jordan Balazovic. Yeah, the
Okay.
number 81st overall
The guy
prospect in all of
from the
baseball.
Wolfenstein video games.
Oh God.
Blaskowitz, right?
There's a game I thought I would never hear ever again. But yeah, those guys were going to come up. Not saying that they're going to like save the Twins in their season, but they would be bringing in more depth and providing that backdrop. They still had Randy Dobnak as well, Lewis Thorpe, who did pitch, and they have major league experience as well. It kind of give way to the more veteran pitchers that they have in their rotation, like J.A. Happ and Matt Shoemaker. And Taylor Rogers has looked awful. Alex Colomé looks like he's getting lit up. Hansel Roble. There's a 3-man closer situation in the Minnesota. And
which is what we were worried about from the beginning. They are dead last in pitcher war, according to Fangraphs.
Yeah,
dead last.
And to put a fantasy spin on it, Taylor Rogers is on my team, and he got off to a really good start. I even talked to Leon about how awesome he has been compared to Drew Pomeranz, and doesn't matter which left-handed pitcher it is. If you're on my team, you're gonna suck apparently because it's been bad. And I drafted these guys pretty early. I can't get rid of them. I still have hope for Taylor Rogers. He's looked too damn good over the last couple of years to be this bad, but boy, oh boy, if you're
and it's funny because he started getting these save opportunities, and that's when the struggles. I mean, because right now his ERA is still sitting at 3.2, which isn't terrible. He has a K per 9 over 12. That's a career high. His walks are actually a career low at 1.29. Lowest xFIP of his career, second lowest FIP of his career. So I don't think the issues are as grave as we make them sound for Taylor Rogers. But what is grave is the fact that he was given this opportunity to close games when they took Colomé out of the role and he had hiccups. And that's why we saw Hansel Robles just get a save. We saw Alex Colomé pitch in, I believe, the 9th inning yesterday. Did he blow the save and then get the win? It was one of those weird situations. But it's an absolute cluster that nobody wants to mess with.
All right. Well, then we went to the White Sox. You still believe in the White Sox? I was nice enough to put him on the first wild card. I mean, if you look at this roster, it's like, how are they doing this? And I was telling my buddy Matt again. He's the host of he's a co-host over at the Football Life, the Audible Tuesday evenings. They just finished an episode where they talked about the NFL schedule. But I talked about it and said, maybe this was the plan all along. Maybe the reason that they didn't go out there and get the same amount of depth that I thought the Twins were getting was because Tony La Russa would prefer to have a scrappy lineup as opposed to Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert just hitting for power. Maybe this is part of the plan. This is the part of the plan that they're going to win with pitching and defense and speed. And they got Billy Hamilton stealing 4 or 5 bases already after he got called up. And they got Danny Mendick and Loris Garcia. Maybe this is what Tony La Russa wanted all along, and this is the results. They're in first place right now.
Yeah, they are surviving on almost sheer grit of their pitching, which if we were to say that before the season began, we're like, yes, they have Lucas Giolito. They trade for Lance Lynn. Dylan Cease, we're hoping turns a corner. And then we look at who their best pitching performers really have been. Lance Lynn's been as advertised, but Carlos Rodon, Dylan Cease are guys that are taking major steps forward. And Lucas Giolito is just like stuck in neutral. Like he can't get the right spot on the clutch to get it in gear. And it just seems like it's sputtering over and over again. But as you said, this lineup, hey, I got to do something, right? But the lineup is extremely worrisome because you have guys like Jake Lamb starting relatively consistently because he is the 30-year-old vet. We got to make sure he gets time at the DH because he's left-handed and he's a veteran. But that's just Tony La Russa's logic, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But they also seem like a prime team that will jump into the trade market early for help, especially in the outfield. Guys like Mitch Haniger, I think, are going to be a huge trade target, especially for a team like the White Sox. I think they'd want somebody left-handed, but I think Haniger's probably going to be their best bet.
I mean, that'd be an improvement over guys like Adam Engel, who's at last I checked, he was expected to come back soon from a hamstring injury. But yeah, it's a very scrap. I mean, it's bad enough you have Nick Madrigal just slapping the ball everywhere to second and shortstop, but then you got the scrappy outfield as well. Now, thankfully, it looks like Jose Abreu is not going to miss any time. Remember, we talked about that. Him slamming into Hunter Dozier, or Hunter Dozier slamming into him. And it looks like he's not going to miss any time. He's still in the lineup. But yeah, you take him out of the lineup, you got to move Andrew Vaughn to first base. I know there was talk about among White Sox fans this past week that, hey, with Abreu gone, maybe we'll see Albert Pujols. Like, no, you don't want to see Albert Pujols here. Like, this lineup's already like so rigid with the way their position players are stacked. You don't want a guy who's a DH. We tried that last year with Edwin Encarnacion. Is that what you want? Because that's what you're going to get when you get Albert Pujols. Thankfully, the Dodgers chimed in. Maybe they see that maybe the Dodgers will leave that Albert Pujols will play third base for them, like he did at the beginning of the Cardinals, his Cardinals tenure. But yeah,
what goes around comes around, right?
That's baseball.
He begins it at third base. He's going to end at third base.
Albert Pujols is the alpha and the omega of baseball. But no, like I said, you Adam Eaton in right field. You got Billy Hamilton and Danny Mendick and Luis Garcia and Adam Engel. And suddenly this lineup doesn't look as strong as it did at the beginning of the year, but they're managing. Actually, La Russa's managing. And
I was trying to think of other players that will be on the trade market that are specifically outfielders for Chicago. And we just glossed over the Tigers being bad because that's what we all expected. Robbie Grossman. Does he not seem like the perfect Tony La Russa player?
Yep.
And maybe he walks. He probably walks a little bit too much. He probably likes his OBP more than Tony La Russa would, but he's a good base runner. He steals bases. He's a solid defender.
Scrappy guy.
That would be a great left fielder for you guys.
Listen, man, anything's an improvement to what this team has right now. But like I said, they just keep winning because I think they're just the pitching and defense.
And the bullpen's been solid. Michael Kopech, whether it's starting the game or Garrett Crochet's had a hell of a year so far. And a lot of people, I feel like he was so hyped last year and we haven't talked about him this year, but yeah, he's still throwing gas from the left-hand side with an absolute killer slider. It's a great bullpen. It's a great rotation. I believe it's only going to get better because we haven't seen the best Lance Lynn. We haven't seen the best Lucas Giolito. If we see them this year, that division's a wrap.
Yeah. Well, not if Cleveland has anything to say about it. Cleveland, once again, that's another team. Maybe that's the secret to this division. It's just do away with the superstar players and just make baseball 1945 again. I mean, they lose all their superstar players and they just they keep churning out these no-name pitchers and turning them into something. Sam Hentges is now the new one here. I'm not saying he's anything good or anything.
Hentges, yeah, he's been in the bullpen, I believe.
Yes, he has been. But he's been like summoned from the bullpen to start more games. So he's only done one. I thought I saw his name pop up numerous times, but he's listed in the rotation according to roster resource right now as a number 2 pitcher for them at the moment. So you'll get a look at him on Monday if the schedule over here isn't lying to me. But you still got Zach Plesac, you still got Aaron Savali, and you're still trying to figure out what Tristan McKenzie is. And on top of that, the bullpen is just killer. Like, what other bullpen would have James Karinchak?
We knew this bullpen was going to be good, though. Even if we thought Karinchak was closing, which he has picked up a couple of saves. I believe he has 3 or 4, but Clase has been their go-to 9th inning guy. Karinchak has been their high leverage, using him in the 7th or 8th. And then Brian Shaw, of course, he leaves Cleveland. A good relief pitcher goes to like Colorado or Seattle and is like completely terrible, gets bombed. And then he comes back to Cleveland and they sprinkle that little dust on him again. And he's fantastic. The issue I have with them, that lineup is just horrendous so far. They're batting 208 as a team, like a 280 on base. Outside of Jose Ramirez, and maybe Franmil Reyes, those are the only 2 threats in the lineup. Andres Jimenez was supposed to be their starting shortstop, so Ahmed Rosario could be the starting center fielder. Jimenez has struggled immensely, so they put Rosario back to shortstop, and Harold Ramirez and Jordan Luplow are sharing center field, right field. Like it's an ugly lineup. It really is.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what the White Sox have in their lineup as well. And it's the same thing, pitching and defense, right? So it really will come down to Terry Francona versus Tony La Russa. Who do you take in that matchup?
I'm going with Tito.
Yeah, it's ditto over here.
Like Tito used to be the old guy of major league managers, and then Tony La Russa gets hired and comes in and makes him look like Billy Bean in the dugout. I mean, he's younger. He's getting ejected out of games. He's talking shit to Angel Hernandez, which was really fun. Did you see that last week?
Killing my memory here.
He had blown a couple of calls in the game. One by calling an out on a ball that dropped in the outfield. They end up tagging out the runner who was heading back because Angel Hernandez has his arm up for out. They go back, they review it, they place the runner on third. Terry Francona comes out and says, like, what the hell? We tagged him out. And he said, well, he was only going back because I said that the ball had been caught and it hadn't. Then he blew a call at first. And Francona went up to him and said, Angel, why is this always happening when you're here? The most passive aggressive thing ever. And I loved it.
Yeah. And conversely, there was an umpire who almost had a perfect game behind the plate. I forgot his name, but he's only been umpiring since 2018. So that's the opposite of Angel Hernandez. So
yes.
So the Royals were at first place at 1 point. Let's just quickly talk about these teams and move on to the AL West. Royals were in first place at 1 point. Then now they got mired into an 11-game losing streak, is what I heard.
Something like that.
Some craziness like that. And now they're dropping in the standings like they should be because they didn't even try to do anything this offseason. I mean, they tried, but not.
I also say they probably did more than most of the other teams in baseball.
I mean, they tried, but it wasn't enough. I mean,
Mike Minor finally had a good start. Carlos Santana he's Mike Minor. I think he's going to be good for them, especially in that ballpark.
Andrew Benintendi has also come on strong the last week or so. I
mean, he's showing some signs of life.
Enough where I had to pick him up on my fantasy team and try to save my fantasy team from total destruction here.
The issue with them, I feel like, is the pitching. They have pieces, and I don't think they exactly know where those pieces go. We've seen, I think, Singer's come out of the bullpen, or it was either Singer or Bubich. They took out of the rotation, and Junis, and they have them as relievers, and it makes no sense what they're doing. Like, honestly.
So last week we talked about Jacob Junis and like, why are you bringing him up? He's a reliever now. He's a no-name reliever at this point. If his value was a starter and it was a fringe of value at that point. Well, that was last week. This week, Jacob Junis and Brady Singer are back on the rotation according to Roster Resource. So, like you said, it's a revolving door over there. The Tigers are going to tiger, like you mentioned. They have some pieces like Robbie Grossman, who they might try to trade at the trade deadline, along with maybe, I don't know, Nomar Mazara. If he does anything, I don't know. Maybe Jose Urena gets traded. Maybe Spencer Turnbull gets traded.
I think Urena is the most optimal choice for them.
Matthew Boyd
too. Boyd as well. The thing that I think is most important for the Tigers this year is we are starting to see some growth from Casey Mize, which is huge because both of his cups of coffee, he really struggled. He's throwing harder this year. He still had a few rough starts, but I believe he's had 3 consecutive quality starts so far.
Yeah.
The splitter, which was, supposed to be his greatest pitch ever, he's not really throwing it because it wasn't working. But he's throwing the fastball harder, getting a curveball over for strikes. Growth from him is more important than any win-loss record they have this year. Granted, they would like to have the least wins so they can get that number 1 pick again, but that's the key to the Tigers year is growth from the young guys like Mize and when Manning and all them come up.
All right, let's move on to the American League West here. We got the Houston Astros. We both had the Astros winning this division. And, of course, we made fun of the A's, and sure enough, the A's are now in first place because that's what the A's do. And the Astros have been hurt. A lot of their key players have been hurt, but their lack of depth is really showing. That's a very top-heavy team, it looks like, in Houston. And it looks like they're paying for it while the A's were able to overcome a really awful start to the season. Remember we saw the schedule to begin the season. They had the Astros and Dodgers like on back-to-back series, and they suffered because of it. And now they're on a hot streak, it looks like. And the Astros and Dodgers are kind of falling on the standings just a little bit. So I don't know. Did you want to talk about the Astros in depth here?
I think the main worry with the Astros so far has been the struggles of Matt Chapman, who is supposed to be, the other big thumper in that lineup, him and Olsen. Jed Lowry, after his hot start, he's cooled down a little bit. Ramon Laureano, still kind of iffy.
Yeah.
He had all those stolen bases to start the year. Mark Canha is once again doing Mark Canha things. He's awesome. I love him. Matt Olson is batting .260, which is interesting, and has cut his strikeout rate down to 20%. That's less than Laureano. That's almost on par with Canha. It's far less than Matt Chapman. So if he can cut down on these strikes, he already has 9 home runs. 147 WRC plus. That this is a great year for Matt Olson. I just hopefully don't hope for that he gets traded, because that would just
Yeah.
be a backbreaker to Oakland. But it would be an opportunity for them to sell high. And if he gets out of Oakland into a hitter friendly park, like say Cincinnati, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. I don't know who Cincinnati would trade, but that would be freaking awesome.
Joey Votto. The A's, we make fun of their pitching rotation all the time. Like Chris Bassett's your A's. You're going to win this division. Apparently, yes, they're going to win. And Sean Manaea is a rebounding candidate. He's never looked better than this. Frankie Montas is still a solid number 3. Cole Irvin is surviving. There was talks that he was going to get called down or sent back down, and it looks like because of necessity, he's still cemented in that rotation. But look at these injuries. They lost Mike Fiers so far, Jesus Luzardo, and AJ Puk. And Trevor Rosenthal.
Jesus Luzardo got too mad at MLB The Show and broke his hand. he bumped it, but like it was his pinky on his pitching hand, on his primary hand, and he hit it. That's the only way you break your pinky is boom on a desk.
He needs that pinky for his changeup, right? Does he
anger management?
I don't even know if he has a changeup, Luzardo.
Yes, he does.
Okay. JV Wendell Ken also lost. So that's a team that just keeps, one guy goes down, next man up. They don't have a real closer right now, but they're going by committee. Jake Diekman, Luke Trevino. The Houston Astros, really quick. They've also suffered a massive amount of injuries. Jacob Dodorizzi, Framber Valdez is out. Justin Verlander, we already knew about him. And then on the bullpen, Pedro Baez, Josh James, Austin Pruitt, Blake Taylor, who we talked, and Noli Paredes. These are all guys we talked about on this show, all out. And now they have to, count on a guy like Luis Garcia, who, by the way, if you ever do Fangraphs, you got to specify which Luis Garcia you're talking about, because there's like 3 of them.
There's the shortstop for
Phillies,
the Reds.
Okay.
And then I thought there was one in Washington as well.
Yeah,
they're both Luis Garcias, I think, and they're both middle infielders. And then we have the pitcher Luis Garcia.
Let's move on to the Angels. We thought, okay, that's a solid choice at third place. Maybe they can steal the division. They're in dead last. I mean, I'm pretty surprised about this. I thought they had enough pieces to at least contend and not be in dead last. I thought the Rangers, we both thought the Rangers were going to be so awful that they were the consensus last place team. And it's the opposite. The Angels are in last. Rangers are hanging on in fourth place. Where do you want to start, with the Angels or the Rangers, really quick?
Angels, they don't have enough pitching. Any inroads, that's been their story for 4 years now. Any inroads they made
Sean, but Sean, they have a 6-man rotation. What do you mean they don't have any pitching?
They don't have enough good pitching. Dylan Bundy's back to being Dylan Bundy. He got away. He started throwing the fastball less, and he had success doing that. So now he throws the fastball more, and he ditches that curveball that was getting him ahead of counts. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. The Rangers are what they are.
Yeah.
There's nothing like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. If he's catcher eligible in your leagues, a cheat code. Joey Gallo's being Joey Gallo. I think the most important thing from him, and we talked about him extensively last week, is Willie Calhoun. He's doing the Willie Calhoun things we expected him to, just about 3 years later than we expected. But the Astros, we moved a little past them. They're the best lineup in baseball right now. 120 WRC plus. Their slash line actually looks somewhat attractive at 266, 333, 435. Yordan Alvarez is the beast we expected him to be. Carlos Correa is starting to kind of get back into it. He had a home run yesterday. That's the best lineup in baseball, and I can't wait for people to make excuses saying, "Oh, they're cheating again." No, they're just good. They're good hitters. They have been.
I just heard. I didn't get a chance to look at this too in depth, but I was watching MLB tonight, and they talked about how once again the Astros are leading the league in strikeout percentage on offense, meaning they have the least amount. They have the least
18.6%. The closest team is at 20.9, and that's San Diego. And then the next closest one after that is 22%. So they're almost 4% ahead of
who's that?
Every other team.
Third team. Who's that third team? I'm sorry.
Boston Red Sox at 22%.
Interesting. It's the same story. I mean, I know that there was that stretch where they could have been cheating. I mean, they were cheating. Let's just face it. But they've also brought in a bunch of guys who don't strike out a lot. And it's 2021. They've been outed. They've been caught. They've been punished. and they're still leading the league in strikeout percentage, the least amount of strikeouts in all of baseball in terms of percentage wise. So it's just a kudos to their
highest batting average as well.
I mean, either that or they're using buzzers or something, or I don't know.
It's on his bat. It's the authentication sticker. It has a wire.
It's on his cock. It's on his ball sack. The Mariners are the last team we're going to mention here in the AL West. Our guy Corey from the Workshoot podcast is asking, would you pick up George Kirby in a dynasty league? And I go,
for sure.
You have to. I mean, if
he's even available, like I wouldn't expect him to be available.
Yeah, stop talking to us and go pick him up if you so desire. But yeah, any high level prospect like that, you have to pick up. I mean, it's a no brainer as far as I'm concerned. 20-20. That's another 6-man rotation. They're bringing up all their guys already. It looks like it's that time of year. Logan Gilbert is cemented as
their defense is suddenly improved upon, greater than it was 2 weeks ago. So we're glad their defense got to a position where they felt comfortable calling them up, because we all know that that defense is really the sticking point about you got to play 10 or about 12 games in AAA before you can come up.
That's like Jerry Kelenic hits a home run in the second game and then proceeds to strike out 3 times the next night, but that's fine. Growing Pains, great show from the 80s, I guess. And it's now a current event thing with minor league prospects getting called up in the middle of May. Mitch Haniger cemented at number 2 spot. That's a guy you just mentioned as a possible trade piece. I mean, this team is loaded with a bunch of trade pieces. If that's what they want. So, but we'll see how they go, but it's an interesting. We always said it was an interesting team. It's not there yet, and I'm surprised that they're even in 3rd place at this point. Let's move on to the National League West, and we both had the Dodgers, like everybody else in the world. And it turns out, the Giants are a real deal. We talk about the Giants every single week, it seems like. So let's start with the Dodgers. What's wrong with them? I mean, they're 22-17, but they should be. I don't know. It just seems like the whole world's falling apart with the Dodgers.
Corey Seager, injured list. Cody Bellinger, injured list. Tony Gonsolin, injured list. Dustin May, injured list. Half of their bullpen. Caleb Ferguson, Brusdar Gratterall, Tommy Canley, Corey Knebel, even David Price. They're all on the injured list.
Scott Alexander.
And that bullpen went from being their strength. I thought it was probably the best bullpen in baseball.
Yeah.
Maybe the Mets in Tampa maybe were like right there with them, but I mean, they're missing 6 relief pitchers. That's tough. And then you add on that Cody Bellinger, likely one of their best players aside from Mookie Betts, who Mookie Betts himself is even struggling a little bit.
Yeah, so, he's not the same guy as last year. The last 2 years, as Sean collects himself, he's sad, shook up about Mookie Betts struggling.
Yeah, so sad. I had the tickle in my throat. I was just like, Mookie Betts, what have they done to you?
And
they murdered my Mookie.
And Mookie Wilson. Aside from Albert Pujols getting signed, they also went ahead and got Yoshi Tsutsugo, who's now listed as their first baseman.
Number 2 hitter, according to roster research. I don't think that happens, but hey, anything's possible.
It's a decent number 2. I mean, he's a contact guy, right?
He can't hit. I liked him coming over out of Japan more than I like more international prospects. The issue he ran into was, even though yes, he did take his walks just like he did in Japan, he never adjusted to the major league fastball, and he just got dominated by velocity. He posted, solid walk rates, 14% last year and nearly 10% this year, but batted 197 and 167. And it's very rare that we see a team like Tampa completely whiff on a player like this, especially with how much they spent. I think they were paying him like $6 million each year, last year and this year. The adjustment to major league velocity was never made. Maybe Tampa or LA turns him into Max Muncy 2.0. I don't know, but that's like the best case scenario, I think.
And let's talk about the Giants really quick, because they are in first place. They deserve a little bit more than just the blur that we're giving him. Mike Tauchman, we just talked about him at the beginning. And that's the number one underlying issue with all these teams that are struggling, is that you can't have enough depth. It's like what Vince said, that to start the show, there's a method to my madness here, Sean. You can't ever have too much depth on your team, because you can either hope for the best, like the White Sox are doing right now, and it's working for them, or you can do something about it, like the Dodgers are trying to do, or like the Giants actually have done. And like, again, Mike Tauchman, number 1 leadoff hitter for that team. There's no question who's going to be hitting end at top of the lineup with the Giants anymore. It's Mike Tauchman and bust. Even though, like we talked about, they have all these other outfielders, on that team, like the Steven Duggars of the world, the Austin Slaters of the world. They're gonna stick with Mike Tauchman. We just acquired you, and we believe in you. We're gonna put you in at the number 1 spot all the time. You don't have to worry about matchups ever. He started a couple of games this past week against left-handed pitching on Friday and Saturday. It doesn't matter. He's going to be there. It's a solid. It's a cemented lineup, and that just adds on to the Mike Yastrzemski's, the Buster Posey's, who's having a rebound year. I think that's the big key right there, is that Buster Posey's healthy and rested and leading that team once again, and they're in first place because of it.
The biggest, I think, sticking point that we can take from San Francisco so far this year is the reimagination and revitalization of Buster Posey, and to a degree Evan Longoria, who we saw this possibly last year in the skill change. Buster Posey, we really didn't see last year because he didn't play, but maybe that was what 34-year-old Buster Posey needed. Maybe he just needed a break, physically. He's been a catcher for over 10 years. That's tough. And now he got a little breather and he's back doing Buster Posey things. My only worry with their rotation, which has been very good so far. The average age of it is like 32. The youngest is Logan Webb, who's only 24, but everybody else is over 30. And then Jake McGee, who Mr. I throw only fastballs. He had been lights out for them as their closer, but his last 2 appearances on Friday, blown save. Saturday gets tagged with the loss. The submariner Tyler Rogers, not Taylor Rogers, but Tyler Rogers has picked up, I believe, 2 saves in the last week or something like that, close enough. It'll be interesting. I think they reveled in the fact that everybody dismissed them. Nobody talked about them. And I think that's exactly what they wanted.
We talked about them.
But we still had the Padres and Dodgers in front of them.
No, but we had them at a solid number 3. It's a real solid number 3, better than the D-backs and Rockies, miles away better than the D-backs and Rockies. And it's my turn to do a little victory lap, as Kevin Gausman has really shown to be a real ace starting pitcher there. He's my best pitcher. I got Lucas Giolito and Kevin Gausman, and said, all right, well, if Luke Giolito can't do the job, I'll do the job for you, Felipe. Don't worry. I'll put that seam on my back, and thank God for him. Really, really. But aside from that, I mean, we talk about these guys all the time. Alex Wood and Anthony Desclafani, Aaron Sanchez is on the DL, but we talked about, the IL, but we talked about him as well as reclamation projects because of the big dimensions in San Francisco. Actually, somebody asked me, Felipe, who would you rather have? Who would you pick up right now for the upcoming week? Alex Wood or Logan Gilbert? Without hesitation, I go Alex Wood, unless you're willing to live with the growing pains that Logan Gilbert's going to give you in the next couple of weeks, then pick up Logan Gilbert. But if you were looking for right now, this instance, you want productivity at this moment, you pick up Alex Wood. And I put my money where my mouth is. I have Alex Wood in all my fantasy teams, not looking to drop him anytime soon, as long as he produces. And I think that's part of the equation with the Giants, is that they did a really good job of pinpointing which 30-year-old pitchers still had something on their tank and could take advantage of their big dimensions out in San Francisco. D-backs, I think the only bright spot that I want to talk about is Josh Rojas, because he's
and Pavin Smith. Don't you disrespect them like that.
Well, Josh Rojas has been saving me at second base in my other league. I mean, my team's still struggling because of all the injuries, especially to Ketel Marte, but Rojas is keeping me above water. David Peralta looking like he's kind of healthy for the first time in a long time.
Oh, that's a guy that was the one that was on my mind. Left-handed outfielder. He would be a great fit for the White Sox.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad. I mean, they're always looking for left-handed bats. They would get one right here. Dalton Varsho looks like he's finally, slowly but surely getting.
Carson Kelly broke his foot, so Varsho came up, and he's been playing half catcher, half center field.
Well, that's not good for me. I wanted him as an outfielder who qualifies as a catcher. Damn it! Now, if he's a catcher, he's just like everybody else. Let's move on to the Rockies. Is there anything to talk about with the Rockies?
Pain. There's a lot of pain as being a Rockies fan right now.
Well, they fired their general manager, the guy who was running this team to the ground, and I don't know, man. This doesn't seem like anything has changed since then. They still have the same players now. Now they're listed as a 6-man rotation. Oh, okay. There's a spot start. Julius Chassin is still in the league. I didn't know that. I thought
Yeah, he pitched for like the Yankees this year.
Oh,
I think he was just on the Yankees. I don't know when he came back to Cleveland or not Cleveland, Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Gray looks like he's done. I mean, he looks more done than Chris Bryant did
And
last year.
It's funny with John Gray is he's been great at home, and then he's been absolute crap on the road, which is weird. Herman Marquez has struggled. Hopefully, they just finally trade him. I hope to God he goes to San Francisco. I hope San Francisco thinks they can win and they trade for him. Oh my God, that would be the greatest thing in the world.
Well, it's the same thing we talked about with Robert Stevenson, where it's like, how is he doing this well at home and struggling on the road? It's just mind-boggling. Well, it looks like the bottom finally came out of Robert Stevenson.
It's inevitable. He's a Colorado reliever.
It was inevitable, but it was funny while it lasted. Since we talked about him, his ERA has gone up to 5.17. His expected ERA has gone up to 5.99. His FIP has gone up to
4. That's the Robert Stevenson we know.
4.53. So yeah, it was. I don't know. Maybe he had a home game that he pitched. I'm sorry. Maybe he had a road game that he had pitched or something. But yeah, that'd be interesting to see what went wrong with him. But oh well, we tried to dig deep for you guys and it didn't work out, but it was fun while it lasted. Moving on to the NL Central, Brewers. I had the Brewers in first. Right now they're in second. You had the Reds in first. Right now they're in third and getting to multiple fights. We were both right about the Cubs and Pirates though, so a little victory lap for both of us.
Pat ourselves on the back.
Pat ourselves on the back. Okay, so the Cardinals. We every year we get really hopeful about the Cardinals, right? Like, oh man, they look really good. They do all the right moves. They make all this, but it's like it just doesn't work out. And their pitching staff was in not in shambles, but it was undefined, literally undefined. No one knows who the other 2, 3, 4 guys would be on the rotation, or who's gonna be closing, who's gonna be setting up. It was like a term paper that was due the next day, and you're working on it all night long in hopes that you get a good grade out of it. That's what the Cardinals are. But it's finally working. It's looking like all the pieces are put into place. They have the rotation set. It looks like they're gonna go.
They just lost. Yeah, they just lost Carlos Martinez, so they are going to be in need of a 5th starter. Probably someone like Miles Michaelis, I believe, just made his 2nd rehab start in the minor leagues. So it's they just seem like they're teetering on the brink. The top of their lineup's been solid so far. Edmund, Carlson, Goldschmidt, Arenado. Matt Carpenter is getting more playing time with Paul DeYoung out. They've moved Edmund over to short. Tyler O'Neill has come back bashing after his injury. He is just like, I think he set like 7 home runs in the 12 games or 14 games that he's been back. Something crazy. Bader's healthy and in center field being Gold Glove. O'Neill's a Gold Glover. They're a team that the fundamentals are all there. But once again, I worry about the depth, both in the position players and in the rotation.
And what would be a talk about the Cardinals without talking about Nolan Arenado? How are you looking at him right now so far?
He was doing good. He's had a really hot homestand, I believe it was. They've been at home. He's not striking out, just like he's never really been a big strikeout guy. I'm a little skeptical about the 8 home runs so far. And I mean, it's Nolan Arenado. I don't want to totally discount him, but he's a guy that I want to see where he is at the end of the year.
Well, right now I'm looking at his Fangraphs page, and his numbers from last year are identical to this year. 8 home runs last year, 8 home runs this year, 23 runs last year, 22 runs this year, 26 RBI last year, 26 RBI this year. He had walk rate of around 7 strikeouts and around 10 to 13, just like last year. It's very weird. His on-base percentage is way up this year. So it looks like the notion that he's only good because of the Rockies and the Coors Field effect, it might be slowly but surely dying. But it's a hard, like we've seen what St. Louis has done to Marcell Ozuna, and I feel like the same thing will be happening to Nolan Arenado, just because that's just the way it is. I don't know. And Paul Goldschmidt has also, I don't know about you, but he's kind of underwhelmed as well. He is getting older, so but
he's posted the highest expected batting average so far of his career. Both the exit velocity and the average launch angle are roughly the same with his entire career. But I would like to go. I need to go check the leaderboard. But I would assume that his launch standard deviation of launch angle, how tight the launch angle is, would be extremely high, because he's also posted a career high line drive rate at 29.1. The defense, though, according to outs above average, which is the Baseball Savant defensive metric, has him as a -1. He's never been in the negatives in OAA before in his entire career. Arenado.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you were talking about Goldschmidt still.
No. This is all Arenado. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought it was Goldschmidt.
No. This is all Arenado. He's posted the highest XBA of his career. He's still hitting a lot of fly balls. I mean, that's always been what he did in Colorado, and it worked. He's actually lifted more fly balls this year than he did last year. Like I said, I want to see where he is at the end of the year. He has become almost a complete dead pull hitter, a pull percentage of almost 50%. So you worry that maybe teams start shifting on him more. Just had his shift percentages here. Yeah, so far teams have only shifted against him 12%. But if they see a 50% dead pull hitter, you would think they're going to start putting 3 guys on that left side of the infield.
And moving on to the Brewers now, unlike these other teams we talked about, they're pretty much healthy except for Christian Yelich, who it's just been frustrating to be a Christian Yelich fantasy owner, much less to be a Milwaukee Brewers fan, just kind of waiting for Christian Yelich. Okay, so it's Christian Yelich is the top guy that they haven't had back. But in the meantime, no pun intended there, by the way. But in the meantime, I mean, they still have most of their lineup playing regularly. They got Colton Wong back, who for a while he was the spark plug for that offense. The pitching, the rotation has been pretty south.
That's carried them. Woodruff, Burns, Hauser, and Peralta have just been dominant.
And then you still have a pretty darn good bullpen with Josh Hader at the top of the depth chart there. So they're 20-20 without Christian Yelich. That's pretty freaking good, I think. Yeah. So they're in line.
And with Keston Hiura falling off the face of the planet. So basically they lost Hiura and Yelich. Yelich due to injury, Hiura because
inconsistencies.
He can't hit a ball.
The Reds, that's another team that you look at their lineup and it's like, wow, that's a pretty darn good lineup. But Jesse Winker has been a godsend for them. Now they realize like, hey, we should probably start this guy every single game, right? And they have. Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's left hand. Well, actually, they face nothing but right-handed pitchers this week. But anyway, Castellanos has been up and down. Mike Moustakas, Eugenio Suarez has struggled, but it looks like a little bit of Rocky's home cooking or road cooking, I should say, has done him some wonders. It looks like, at least that's what I think. He's on my team, and he's posted the highest amount of points this week than he has in the last month or so. So I'm excited for that. But the big story is Luis Castillo. Okay, you're Mr. Expert here, Mr. Pitching Expert. What is wrong with Luis Castillo?
He's not throwing his changeup. And it's not, I think, a issue of it's no longer effective. I think he's lost command of the pitch.
Oh.
And I mean, he was throwing the changeup. The last few starts this year, he's ditched the changeup. And he's throwing it 35% of the time. And it's just not getting the same effect that it was, in years prior, where it consistently posted whiff percentages of 40%. Fastball velo slightly down, but still there, 96, 97. The slider, he's always had command issues with it, and he's throwing it about the same as usual. It's just, I feel like he's lost. And I saw a tweet somewhere in the last couple of days where he could throw a quality start, 6 innings, giving up 3 runs for the rest of the year. His ERA would be 5.5. He has a 7.71 ERA, only 1 win in 8 starts. I mean, this is a guy that was consensus top 6, top 7 starting pitcher, easily going in the second round of all drafts. And it's gone. And I thought this was going to be the best pitching rotation in this division. I thought it was going to be better than Milwaukee. I thought it was going to be better than St. Louis. And it's, aside from Wade Miley's no-hitter, it looks kind of, Tyler Mahley's had his moments.
Yeah.
Sonny Gray's just back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I don't know what to make of them. The lineup's awesome, but the pitching is really elusive.
And then really quick, let's talk about the Cubs. I know we mentioned them a little bit. I just feel like, I don't want to hear from the Cubs fans. Like, why are you talking about the White Sox, not the Cubs? Listen, man, the Cubs, they're fully healthy, finally they got Ian Happ and Nico Horner back, so we'll see what that goes. Chris Bryant's having a rejuvenation year so far, so right
it's a
in
free
time
agent
for that.
year.
Well, aside from that, it looks like he's finally healthy, and all of the Statcast numbers are finally in the red and not in the blue like they have been in the past couple of years. Anthony Rizzo is looking pretty, consistent. The pitching looks pretty serviceable after I kind of like just brushed them off and say, whatever, just a bunch of 88 mile per hour guys who don't do anything. They've held their own. And the bullpen, Craig Kimbrell, looking like his old self again, although he did blow a save last night, it looks like.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah, he's on your team, so
yes.
But you're pretty happy with him, right?
Yeah, he's been great so far.
And as far as the Pirates go, it's all about the future. I don't know if any of these players will be there in the next couple of years, except for maybe Ke'Bryan Hayes. But once again, their starting pitching is kind of surprising. That we always bring them up because they're always like at the top of the free agency.
Yeah, one of their guys is like slated for 2 starts, and we're like, hey, should we add this guy?
Yeah. And who's that guy this week? I can't see. Oh, okay, it doesn't go that far into the future, but it would be maybe JT Brubaker.
Hey, that's the guy. If he's probably already on somebody's roster, but I saw somebody with the butterfly. Like, is this meme? And it was the guy looking at the butterfly, and over the butterfly it says JT Brubaker. The person's asking, "Is this an ace?"
Wait, I got one for you. The butterfly is Richard Rodriguez. Is this a closer?
Honestly, David Bednar needs to be closing games for them. He was the guy. He was the afterthought in the Padres deal, in which Lucchesi went to the Mets. That one guy went from Joe Musgrove, the no-hitter of that guy. He's been awesome. Strikeouts are exactly like they were in the minors for him. Over 11 walks are down. The splitter is awesome. He needs to be closing games because he's the best talented one. But we know that the best reliever isn't always the closer. James Karinchak.
Yeah, or Manuel Clase is no slouch himself.
No, he's no slouch.
He's been struggling lately. They're
he had 4 walks all year, and then in that game versus Seattle, he came in the 9th inning and walked the bases loaded. 3 walks when he'd only given up 4 for a month and a half.
I tell you, man, this has got to be one of the most disappointing bullpens I've ever owned in our baseball life league. In terms of fantasy baseball, it has to be one of the worst I've ever owned. I mean, it's a bunch of big names, and they're all wetting the bed. So anyway, moving on to your favorite division, the National League East, and the reason why you're going to Atlanta is to see these 2 teams hammering it out. And right now, the Mets have the upper hand at 18-15, despite all the injuries, despite no Nemo, no DeGrom lately.
Lindor with an OPS under 600.
It's been a total mess there, but they are 3 games over 500. The Mets. Let's start with the Mets. Tell me something quick about the New York Mets.
Their pitching has been great. Taijuan Walker is looking like an absolute. Also mentioned on our episode last week. Go listen to it about post-type prospects. Taijuan Walker, who I was very hesitant for the Mets to sign. I thought he didn't need 3 years. Everything didn't look like it had rebounded completely. But his velocity is back up. He says this is the best he's felt in probably 5 years.
Wow.
He feels completely healthy. David Peterson had the kind of tough loss yesterday or 2 nights ago. They need DeGrom back, and right around the corner. It's so close that Mets fans can almost taste it, but Syndergaard and Carrasco will probably be back by the time they're allowed to come off, which is June 1st. But the bullpen's been awesome aside from yesterday, in which they combined to give up like 10 runs. But that was Joey Lucchesi mainly, and some bad luck. The offense has been inconsistent, to say the least, but there's too much talent in that lineup, even with Nimmo out, even with JD Davis out. The lineup's too talented to not be hitting the amount of home runs they should be, which we have seen. They went down to Tampa. They're in a dome, temperature controlled. There's not much wind, but at home, they've only hit like 10 or 12 home runs. Most all of their home runs have come on the road. Alonso hit a home run yesterday. Lindor hit a home run yesterday. Once their power starts coming back, I think this is going to be a very dangerous lineup. And with how well they've pitched, both in the rotation and the bullpen, I still think they're the favorite to win this division.
And other injuries, Seth Lugo is out. Dylan Betances is out. Carlos Carrasco is out. We just mentioned Brandon Nimmo. But Jose Martinez, we talked about him in the offseason being a really nice piece off the bench. He's been hurt since he signed with them. And so,
he tore his meniscus in spring training coming off a base.
JD Davis has been out, which is supposed to be their hot corner guy. So who's their hot corner guy? Oh, Jonathan Villar now gets extra playing time. So
Mets fans have seriously tried to say that since the team won with Villar and Pilar in the lineup, that when Nimmo and JD Davis come back, they need to go to the bench. Even though Kevin Pilar has a sub 700 OPS and Villar is at like 705.
You know what it is,
he's
Sean.
an even worse fielder than JD, and people don't see it. They're like, oh no, he doesn't double clutch, so he must be better. He's a terrible defender. He's a good base runner, and that's all he is.
You know what it is? They just want that to work. Because if this team wins with Kevin Pilar and Jonathan Villar, it's gonna be Pilar Villar will take you afar. It's the new I Like Ike.
That was so cringy, and I loved it.
That's how I see you Mets fans all the time. All cringe, no, nothing else. No, I'm joking. The Braves. Let's talk about the Braves really quick because I don't know what their excuse is anymore. I mean, Soroka is not coming out of that tunnel to save you guys. Darno is hurt.
He's done for the year.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was a one of those bad thumb ligament torn, required surgery. So,
my God, yeah, because when I saw thumb, I thought, oh well, no big deal. JT Realmuto came back from a thumb injury, and now he's the best catcher in all of baseball.
Yeah, he tore his ligament in his thumb. I believe. I'm not sure if they have him on the 60. Yeah, no, he is on the 60 IL, but he's not expected to come back.
Christian Pache, but we already talked about him. He's gonna need some more seasoning, so to speak.
Yeah, he hasn't been good even when he has played.
But the bullpen has been in shambles lately. This past week, the rotation has been pretty up and down. Thank God for Huascar Ynoa, that's a guy we talked at the very beginning of the season. We told you guys, go pick him up. I hope you guys did. I picked him up. I have not dropped him in any of my leagues, and he's been one of my saviors in my pitching staff. So I hope you guys did listen to us and picked up Huascar Ynoa, who looks like he's finally a mainstay in that rotation. But I don't know, man. Aside from that, this is the complete opposite. There's not a lot of big name injuries. All their big name players are out there.
Freeman off to a slow-ish start. He's only batting like 220. It still has an OPS like over 800 because he's hitting like I think he has 8 or 9 home runs and he's still taking his walks because he's Freddie freaking Freeman. Marcell Ozuna is coming back down to earth. It's almost like players. I mean, he got paid and he's like, I don't need to hit the ball hard anymore. I think this team is very lucky to be 19-20 because if it wasn't for Pablo Sandoval, who has been the pinch hitter extraordinaire for them, he has 4 home runs and 10 RBIs as a pinch hitter in 18 at bats. His batting average, I believe, last time I looked, was actually higher than his on base percentage as a pinch hitter because he's probably tried to lug out a double. And I really need to go find that video because I think it'd be entertaining to watch.
It's typical Pablo Sandoval stuff, man. He just hacks at anything, and he still is able to make really good contact with the ball. I mean,
4 home runs in 18 at bats as a pinch hitter. And they've all come late in games to tie games to put him ahead. So, like I said, I think they are very fortunate to only be a game under 500.
What's more impressive, 18 games and 4 home runs from Pablo Sandoval or 18 games and 4 stolen bases from Billy Hamilton? Both are part-time players, by the way.
What is this, 2014, 2013?
I'm telling you, man. It's like I'm back. I'm back in my apartment writing for accentsports.com and writing about how Pablo Sandoval can make contact at a high percentage rate outside the strike zone, and Billy Hamilton is just super uber fast.
Oh, somebody just put out an article on bad ball hitters, and I wasn't sure if it was on MLB or not. Oh, I'd love to go back and find it. But it was a really good article. Really good article.
Really quick before I forget, Ozzy Albies, your cleanup hitter for this team.
Oh, I've never been big on Ozzy Albies.
I know. Moving on to the Miami Marlin. We liked their makeup. We thought this could be the last place team, but not. It's just a tough division to be in, and they've done enough to be in 4th place, and the Nationals aren't dead last. So a little bit of a switch there. what can you tell us about the Marlins?
They're not scoring enough runs. The rotation has been as, pretty good as we thought it was. They've had a couple of injuries that have held them back. But they've been, the rotation's good. The bullpen's okay. Injuries, though, to Starling Marte. Jesus Aguilar is really just now rounding into form. Of course, as quick as Jazz Chisholm was here, he was gone. He just came back, I believe, yesterday in their game versus Los Angeles. Without Jazz Chisholm, this offense seems a whole lot less dynamic, especially without Starling Marte, because I think you would optimally want those two guys, like they play with like their hair's on fire. And then you put like Jesus Aguilar. Brian Anderson's had a really tough start. Yeah. Miguel Rojas and John Birdie have split time. Birdie has struggled. Rojas is doing okay. It's just the offense, which was what we were worried about with them, is just like their rotation. Their rotation is what we thought they were. What's that Romeo Crennel meme?
They Dennis Green. Dennis
okay,
Green.
Close enough.
Come on, man.
They are who we thought they were. That is the description of the Miami Marlins season.
Romeo Crennel is such a soft-spoken guy, and then you got the firecracker that is Dennis Green, who just, I miss Dennis Green. He was a good guy. Rest in peace. The other piece that's missing here for
What a segue! What a segue!
As soon as it came out of my mouth, like, But the piece that's missing here, Sean, is Jorge Alfaro not being in the regular lineup.
Yeah, Chad Wallach and Sandy Leone is
because Jorge Alfaro is so good at catcher that offensively that's what's missing for this
when we're talking about Chad Wallach, I would take Jorge Alfaro too. Yeah. No offense to Chad Wallach or Chad Wallach's dad, who's like the coach on the team.
Tim Wallach, former Dodger and Expos, I believe.
I think they're both. His dad was a catcher too, right?
No, he might have started as a catcher.
I
remember him as a third baseman.
Oh, okay. Maybe he was Brandon Inge. Maybe he was catcher, third base.
Oh, yeah, that's possible. But the point was that Jorge Alvaro sucks, like I told you guys from the very beginning. And by the way, you talk about the rotation, and that's with Sixto Sanchez starting out in the minor leagues and Trevor Rogers, who we're going to be talking about in just a little bit. But the Nationals, let's finish up with the Nationals here. We had a bad feeling that this is the descendancy of the Washington Nationals perennial contenders as they're getting older. They're looking a lot more broken down. They're not getting any more athletic. You signed Kyle Schwarber. This is what you expect. Juan Soto is back though. So maybe that's going to right the ship. He's on my fantasy team, as you know, Sean. So I'm hoping that that's going to right my ship because I desperately need my offense to start producing. Once again, I don't want to talk about my team. But you're counting on Kyle Schwarber. Not that there's nothing wrong with Kyle Schwarber, but that's like you're setting yourself up if you get Kyle Schwarber on your lineup on a regular basis. All right, you're in for some really bad times with Kyle Schwarber, and I'm not saying this as a disgruntled Cubs fan. It's just that's just who he is. He's a great power hitter, but he's got the 220 average is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with. Josh Harrison. You're another old guy on that team. You're depending on Starlin Castro, another old guy. You're depending on this team to do something. And Victor Robles has not been that uber prospect we were hoping that he would be. Ryan Zimmerman's off the bench, but still another old guy, another old guy you're trying to count on for, I don't know, veteran leadership. I don't know. And Max Scherzer
has been great. He's been awesome.
He has been. I'm not taking anything away, but everybody else, like Joe Ross, Eric Fetty, John Lester, you're counting on John Lester to get you over the hump.
Yeah, that's and Patrick Corbin, you look at his stat line, it's absolutely terrible. K per nine under 8. It's actually under 7.5. 6.1 ERA, 6.5 expected ERA, FIP of 6.4, xFIP of 4.5, which is slightly higher than where he usually is. And then it gets even worse when you realize that this is after 3 consecutive quality starts where he's gone a combined 20 innings and allowed 6 runs over those 20 innings. But all 3 were quality starts. And it's after those 3 starts that his ERA is down to 6. But the issues with him are still there. It's, the velocity's gone. It's ticked up a little bit this year compared to last year, but he's a 2-pitch pitcher and the fastball is hittable. So, and they're not chasing the slider. It's not getting as many whiffs. He did it like his last start. One of the quality starts was the best so far. So maybe he turns a corner, but I'm not holding my breath over a 31-year-old left-hander with declining velocity.
And if you drafted Brad Hand, you must be very pulling your hair at this moment and pissed off. He just blew a save on Wednesday, and you have not seen him ever since after throwing 24 pitches. No, this team's a giant mess, man. This is a very disappointing. Not disappointing, but it's just it's a train wreck.
Yeah.
But this is the results of years and years and years of trying to stay at the top of the division and trying to compete. And yeah, thank God for Max Scherzer, but that's pretty much all you have at this point.
It's funny because Patrick Corbin and Steven Strasburg still owe to combine like $350 million over the next 6 years. Yeah, so that's going to age well.
You know what? It was worth it because they won a World Series finally, and that's all you can ask for. But yeah, this is part of it, right? This is the other side of the spectrum. Is welcome to baseball hell. But but again, Juan Soto is back, so I mean that's your future. That is the future of baseball. So we'll see what he does on the offensive side of things. Max Scherzer is holding his weight, so let's see if Juan Soto can, especially for my sake, can start playing like we thought he could be.
I just have this gut feeling they are gonna blow it all up.
Listen, man, we've been talking about Mike Rizzo having to blow things up for the last 3 or 4 years. I remember Bryce Harper; he was supposed to blow up the whole team because they were not going to sign Bryce Harper long term anyway, and they refused to trade him away for anything. I don't think they got anything out of the Bryce Harper, him walking from the Nationals, right? They didn't even get a first round pick, right?
They got something because they offered him a qualifying offer and he refused it.
Okay.
So I'd have to go back and look at who that was. But Josh Bell is still bad again. Nobody wanted to believe me. Everyone said, "Oh yeah, they acquired an all-star first baseman. That's going to help the lineup. That's going to help offset this." But they didn't want to listen that Josh Bell over his last 161 games going into this year was a negative WAR player. He was bad. And he's batting 156 with a 30% strikeout rate and an on base under 220. So yeah, he sucks. Ryan Zimmerman should be playing first base every single day.
Wow.
And you know that's bad. He's actually had a pretty good year. But Josh Bell is just like an absolute train wreck.
Yeah.
Which is, like you said, is fitting for this team.
Yeah. So let's move on to the awards, and then we can finish up. There's the American League Awards. I thought Vladimir Guerrero, not that. Oh, by the way, the Nationals are 3-7 in the last 10 games. I just wanted to point that out. Hey, Leon Tompkins, Step Back Podcast. You know, this is what happens, right? You win the basketball championship, our fantasy basketball championship game, and now your Nationals, your baseball team sucks ass. So it was worth it.
What did it cost? Everything.
Well, I told him too, hey, watch, you win the fantasy basketball championship and the Brooklyn Nets get trounced in the early rounds of the playoffs, of the NBA playoffs. So I hope you're happy with that fantasy championship. Okay, so American League Awards, I have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. winning the whole thing. You had Shohei Ohtani, and according to Fangraphs WAR, the 2.4, Mike Trout leads, surprise, leading all of baseball in offensive WAR. The offensive hitters in WAR at 2.4. Are you shocked by this revelation here, Sean?
No, okay. I think Ohtani is doing everything I expected of him, if not more. Mm-hmm. He's 1.1 WAR as a hitter. I believe he's tied for the major league lead, or he might be one behind somebody in home runs. So he's worth 1.1 WAR as a hitter, and through 5 starts, he's worth about half a run. It's been really weird for him, though. He's got this 2.1 ERA. A K per 9 over 14. Only 2 starters, I believe, that have that are him and Jacob deGrom. But he has skated the thinnest of ropes with a walk per 9 of slightly over 7. The difference is he's giving up walks, but nobody can hit him. He's given up 11 hits in 25 innings. He has nearly double the amount of walks as he does hits allowed. So I expect that to balance out. I expect him not to walk as many guys. I expect him to give up more hits. But if he is anywhere around a 3 ERA in 25 starts, and that would put him at roughly a 3-win player just on the pitching side of things. And after 450 plate appearances as a hitter, he would be around another 3.5-win player there. You're looking at 8 to 9 wins above replacement on both sides of the ball, where he's hit 30 home runs, stolen upwards of almost 20 bases, and then pitched 25 games. He has to be MVP. Just has to be. There's no other way.
I don't know, man. MVP on a losing team like the Angels, because there's a bunch of losers on there. I don't think so. But that's going to be the future now, isn't it, Sean? Because there's a lot of it seems like there's a lot of players who are two-way. that are coming up in the minor leagues. Hunter Green is the guy who comes to mind right now.
I don't. Hunter Green's a 100% pitcher now. They're not.
Oh, they're not even bothering.
Yeah, they're not even bothering.
What about Brendan McKay?
McKay was pitching for AAA Durham last time I saw. He's still recovering from, I believe, that shoulder surgery he had last year. But the hitting thing with him was more novelty than anything.
Well, remember Ohtani? That was supposed to be a novelty as well when he got in.
Yeah, as much as I like to say it, because I really liked what I saw from Brendan McKay as a hitter, the stat line wasn't near as good as when you watched him. He hit one of the hardest balls I saw in Montgomery. It was like 112 off the bat, and they're just focusing on him being a pitcher. They're not the team that I think would let him bat in the games he pitches just because of his injury history. Okay. And I mean, Ohtani's the same way, but I think Ohtani's a bit more of a game changer offensively than McKay has shown he could be.
Yeah, if only he was on a better team, I guess we would finally. Although we could say the same thing about Mike Trout. If he were only in a better team, we could see how awesome he is. Cy Young Award, I had Lucas Giolito. You had Kenta Maeda.
Oh God, that's blowing up.
And Garrett Cole at the top of Yankeedom.
I think we tried to outthink ourselves here. We probably should have just gone with Garrett Cole.
Yeah, probably. We probably should have done that, but we try to be at the. You know what? We could have been vanilla. I mean, I guess we were vanilla on some of our MLB standing picks, but we try to go above and beyond for the players. All right, here we go. Andrew Vaughn for Rookie of the Year. I had Jared Kelenic, Rookie of the Year for Sean.
I still think those are two solid picks because Vaughn's getting into a rhythm now, and he looks really good.
And Kelenic just got called up, but your leaders are from the Texas Rangers, Adolis Garcia and Dane Dunning on the pitching side as your Rookie of the Year leaders, according to Fangraphs WAR. And finally, the Manager of the Year for the American League. I have a couple of candidates. You tell me who would fit best here. Alex Cora of the Red Sox, Tony La Russa of the White Sox, and Bob Melvin of the A's.
I think it has to be Alex Cora. And nobody's going to like it should be Alex Cora, but it won't be Alex Cora. Now, if Bob Melvin somehow sneaks the A's into the playoffs, I'd be okay giving it to him. Yeah. And even if the White Sox, like if they run away with the division and with the injuries they faced, we've had Eloy Jimenez have a tribute on the field because apparently he died or something. It's like, yeah, I could maybe put Tony La Russa up there. It should go to Cora. It won't, which means it'll probably go to somebody like La Russa or Melvin if those teams get into the playoffs.
Listen, man, it's going to go to a Sox manager either way, right? Either red or white. It's going to go to one of those two, right? Has to. If the season were to end today, I should say.
Yeah.
But that would be funny if Alex Cora wins it. Oh, my God. So many people are going to be so mad. Scorch the earth. Let's do this. All right. And then finally, National League, we both have Juan Soto. Well, you got to show up to actually play. And right now, Ronald Acuna has shown up to play. And he's at the top of the Fangraphs WAR at 2.3. Any surprise there, Sean? Or
no, he showed some improvements last year in which he was walking more. It did lead to more strikeouts, but there was an approach change. And I don't think many people talked about it. They just talked about, Ronald Acuna is still awesome. More people, I think, were actually worried because the batting average dropped to like 250, but he posted the highest on base percentage of his career. And that was really interesting to me. And the fact that he's improved upon it even more, it makes him just as dangerous, if not more so than Juan Soto. And
yeah.
Acuna's had a couple of injury scares so far, both with the ankle and the hit by pitch on the hand. He's escaped it relatively fine, but Juan Soto still hasn't hit like a crazy hot streak. And if he stays healthy the rest of the way and he has one or two of those, then I'm not ready to admit that we were wrong just yet, but it's definitely looking in Acuna's favor compared to Soto.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of being wrong, Luis Castillo I had as my Cy Young Award. I figured, well, it's now or never for him, and he's going to be a hot commodity. He's going to be a one man, and if he stays in the National League, he could win that Cy Young. You kept the vanilla with Jacob deGrom, and it looks like even with Jacob deGrom missing all these starts and not getting all these wins not getting the run support from the Mets, it looks like Jacob deGrom is the number one contender for Cy Young.
My most favorite stat from this is the fact that he leads the National League. He is slightly behind Garrett Cole, who I believe is at 2.7 in terms of pitcher WAR.
For Fangraphs, no, it's 2.3. They're actually tied.
Oh, I thought I just saw him go up to 2.7. Anyway, but
I
in
just
the
saw it today.
National League, um, he has two or three starts less than everybody else, and he has at least a point 0.6 over half a win lead on everybody in two or three less starts. But I am looking at it now. Garrett Cole is at a 2.7 in 8 starts over 52 innings.
What, for Fangraphs?
Yes.
Oh, the hell? What was I seeing? All right. So I mean, yeah, Jacob DeGrom. That's. Oh, okay. I guess I was rushing it and I put the wrong number there. Sorry about that, folks. So it's 2.7, not 2.3. So I'll fix that right now for the record keeping purposes here. All right, rookies of the year. I had Ian Anderson. That seemed to be like a safe choice. Brian Hayes. That also seemed to be a safe choice. And just like the American League littered with Rangers rookies, this one is littered with Marlins rookies. And Jazz Chisholm, who it looks like we're talking about him every single week now, even though he's injured. And Trevor Rogers, who not Sixto Sanchez, but Trevor Rogers ends up being the Marlins rookie pitcher that's going to take over the world by storm here. So are you surprised to see Trevor Rogers on this potential?
No,
Roy
because
list?
even though his numbers for 2020 weren't that great, he had his two best appearances, I believe, or at least one of them was awesome against the Mets in 2020. And here he was, this kind of bigger lefty. I think he's like 6'3, 6'4, 6'5, tall guy. And he's throwing 97 from the left-hand side. You don't see that kind of velocity that consistent. Usually that's a reliever, if anything. And he showed really good poise. I know that's like a cop out, but he just seemed really advanced for someone who he had done pretty well in the high minors, but nobody was really expecting him to do what he's doing. But yeah, he was totally slept on. He's top 10 in WAR for all pitchers in the National League. So kudos to him. He could be Jazz Chisholm's going to get all the fanfare, but I wouldn't be shocked if at the end of the year Trevor Rogers is the actual more contributing player.
And then finally, manager of the year. Craig Counsell I had because I thought the Brewers were going to take over that division by the NL Central by storm. You had Luis Rojas. I'm sorry, who's he managing for nowadays?
He's Rojas? The Mets. He's the Mets.
Oh, okay. Okay, so a whole bit of a homer pick there.
I believe my condition then was if the Mets win the division, Luis Rojas is manager of the year. And I'm still sticking by that.
Well, yeah, they're winning the division right now, so I guess I can see where you're coming from there. But I got a couple of candidates for you because the Mets, I don't know, I feel like they haven't played enough games. They do
have the least games in all of baseball.
That takes skill right there. Mike Shildt for the Cardinals is one candidate, and everybody's favorite manager in the entire world. Everybody loves this guy, Gabe Kapler. People love Gabe Kapler.
If the Giants win their division, he would get it over Rojas. I think he would be the runaway candidate if they somehow win that division.
Oh no, I didn't mention Rojas. It was Mike Shildt of the Cardinals. It's either one or the other. I'm not giving.
You don't think Kapler, if the Giants were to win the West, which is still highly unlikely.
I said two guys. I said Mike Shildt or Gabe Kapler. Who would you go with? And you.
Yeah, I'd go with Gabe Kapler.
Okay,
but it's just like Rojas. It's conditioned on if the Giants win anything. Because if they come in third place, then nobody cares.
Well, the other thing is that I was joking about people loving Gabe Kapler.
They hate him. I know they hate him. Kapler. But still, if they were to go and keep one of the Dodgers or Padres out of the playoffs, like people would lose their minds.
Oh, yeah.
It would be insanity. And I think he's the go-to if somehow San Francisco keeps it up. Not saying they will. But Mike Shildt, I believe, has already won one manager of the year. Has he? Right after he came in, the year after he took over for Matheny, I believe. So
it sounds right. Yeah.
And they tend to repeat. I feel like when somebody wins it once, they win it again.
Well, yeah.
Often. I'd have to go look. I don't really care about managers.
And it's also, but it could be the opposite effect where it's like, oh, well, that guy already won it. So let's go with someone different. And somehow these individual writers ends up agreeing with each other, and yeah, they all vote kind of like sheep, Yeah, maybe that one guy who brought it up earlier today, maybe he's right. Maybe we should give it to somebody else, just like to be different.
The Baseball Writers Association of America equals sheep. Mean Girls.
Yeah, it's groupthink, right? Like, because that's what happens. I honestly do think, like, now that you're telling me this, I mean, I'm trying to see if he's actually won it before, but I can't multitask. I'm really bad at this. I'm trying to talk to you and I'm trying to research this. But oh yeah, Animal Manager of the Year 2019. So there you go.
Okay, yeah, I felt like he had won one.
All right, so maybe it's Gabe Kapler's time then. Maybe they won't repeat. And that's all I had for you guys for today. Any other issues we need to talk about, Sean, before I let you go?
None. I need to hit the road.
Hit the road, Jack. All right, guys.
Hey.
All right, you guys. We have other podcasts. We don't have time to disclose them all. We went a little bit over, and Sean needs to get going to his road trip. But I am Felipe. That is Sean over there. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye, guys.